Welcome to the Building Sustainability Podcast with me, Jeffrey Hart. Every fortnight, join me as I talk to designers, builders, makers, dreamers, and doers. Together, we can explore the wide world of sustainability in the built environment by talking to wonderful people who are doing excellent things. Hello and welcome to episode 102. This episode's guests are once again the wonderful Joe Bolton and Matt Whitaker of Abundant Earth. The previous episode, 101, was also with Joe and Matt talking about their intentional community, Abundant Earth. Today we are discussing the creation of their stunning straw bale house, where this conversation was recorded. I would say that this episode is certainly standalone, but if you listen to episode 101 first, you might have a little more context of the setting and just how delightful Joe and Matt are. Before the episode, we have got news, the Woodland Pioneers. So back in October of last year, you had 3 episodes from the Woodland Pioneers event. That was all about coppicing. I'll put a link to those if you want to listen. But the Woodland Pioneers event is coming around again. It runs from Monday, August 28th for 5 days. There is a link to the event in the show notes if you want to immerse yourself in the coppice scene with coppice workers making lovely coppice crafts. It's a really, really brilliant event with such good people. Get yourself involved with that. Also happening at the same time, actually, is the European Straw Bale Gathering happening in Denmark this year. That is from August 31st to the 3rd of September. If you're interested in straw bale building in a big way, that will be a great thing to get to. Also wanted to say the latest episode of the Last Straw Journal is out. It's excellent. It's the biggest volume they've done so far. Really, really good read. So if you're into the alternative journal of design and construction for dirtbags and dreamers, which I imagine you probably are, then get yourself a copy of that. A link is in the show notes. No new patrons this week, so just time to say thank you to all of the patrons that already exist. And say if you want to support the podcast financially, then you can by going to patreon.com/building sustainability. I think that's it. We'll keep it nice and succinct today. I'm back at the end very briefly, but until then, enjoy the wonderful Joe and Matt. So we're sat in your beautiful house. Can you describe sort of what it is and what the vision was?
So it's a straw bale house, and it's just a loaded straw bale house, I suppose. Nebraskan style, I think they call it, don't they? So all of the weight of the building is on straw bales. There's lots of timber frame. The idea of it was to build a house that didn't touch the woodland that it sits on. So there's lots. It's kind of a Weetabix shape. There's 2 stories of Weetabix shape, and then on one end of the final Weetabix, there's a circle, like a big yurt, because we've lived in a yurt. And on top of each of the roofs, there's a big curtain roof behind it, where the retaining wall, because it's set down in a bank a little bit. We built a retaining wall with big tyres from trucks that holds the bankside. So the ground floor sits kind of in the bankside. The first floor is up above and it's got a turf roof on, and there's this curtain roof that reaches out towards the tyres. And then there's a final turf roof on the circle above on top of the Weetabix. And each of those turf roofs the idea was just to replace the woodland. So at the moment, like on the curtain roof, the woodland stretches down the bank, and then you can see it splatter up the side of the house, really, on the roof. There's bluebells, and then there's even dog's mercury, like an ancient woodland indicator, which has spread itself up onto the roof as well. So it's kind of this, what I wanted was a seamless kind of something that sat in its environment without having hurt it. We chopped down one big tree, which is this oak beam that's above us. We cut that down by hand, and then We chainsaw milled it and hewed it with axes to make it look pretty. But you know, that was the one sacrifice the land had to make for this house, really.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the idea of it, to make a house that was both good for the people inside it, you know, plenty of curves and natural materials, you know, stuff to feed the soul, but also good and nourishing for the land around it.
Mm-hmm.
And actually the usable space that happens underneath that outside curtain is a really good cellar space. So it's, because it's in the earth, it's a really good cool. That's our pantry area. And,
Right.
And
Yeah.
then the bike shed.
Yeah, I was really interested in lime and earth, and yeah, I read a few books on it, and like the timber frame, the other house, that was wrapped in straw bales.
Yeah.
But I wanted to make, you know, the Nebraskan style. It was loaded, and how high could you go? So this one's 3 stories, and it's got a second story, which has been a little push on the straw bales.
Right.
Been some. We've just finished the top part, and you know, as you go up and up and put more earth on, you know, despite the best efforts at compressing those bales with straps and things, there've been a few little compression cracks over the years as things have settled and finally added to it. But
You did also want to go for this style to make it less labour intensive and quicker, so there wasn't a timber frame
yeah,
as well.
I'm not sure that really worked. I'm not sure there is an easy building, really. As there are different ways of building,
Yeah.
but none of them are quicker, it turns out. This one certainly hasn't been, but
If you're going to do it all by hand.
yeah, I mean, lots of the mixing of this has been done with a petrol-powered mixer.
Right.
But the previous house, we all did it all in a bathtub, and certainly lots of the earth renders were done in that bathtub. It's still in the yard there. So, yeah.
We're sat in the sort of circular end now. You said you lived in yurts, and so that felt like a...
Circles.
Yeah. There's something pretty magic about them, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you put into words what that is?
For me, it's the lack of straight edges. Yeah, there's no end to it. It's just this continuum of space. It just flows into itself. It's really annoying to build furniture for, but in every other sense, it just feels good to the soul. You know, it sits comfortably on the eye and then soaks in this. It's a flowing form. I think.
Yeah, it feels like a soft space to live, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, despite its difficulties for fitting shelves and the likes, definitely do it again.
Yeah.
But a circle isn't necessarily... There's a reason why people build in squares, I think.
Yeah.
But there's also a reason to build in circles. You know, roundhouses have been along for a very long time, haven't they? And I'm sure...
Strength.
Yeah, I mean, there's a strength in a circle too.
Mm-hmm.
The firewood piles up in the top show that. They're self-supporting. But yeah, for me it's just the way they feel and look. They're just soft, beautiful. And this one is lumpy and flowing as well, because our plastering technique and our bales were eaten by rats, so we had to retie them. You know, so they weren't the best bales by the time. But you know, even that, we've built this house on rat-chewed bales. It's still here, 14 years later.
Yeah.
It's a very durable, wonderful technique, isn't it? So.
Yes, and to say your walls aren't overly lumpy. I've certainly seen lumpier walls.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I guess there's something I'm trying to sort of find the words to describe it because of my earth floors. There's a beauty in that slight undulation, and it's hand finished, and even when it looks flat, if you walk around on it, there's an ever so slight, and that feels really good, and it feels really. See, I haven't got the words for it yet.
It's a natural thing.
Yeah.
You know,
and then all these people are getting their laser flat concrete floors or And yeah, you don't get the same sort of multi-sensory feeling from it.
Yeah, I wonder if it is. I'm imagining walking on an earth floor and that feedback that we have from our bodies. Our bodies are designed to kind of, to feel for safety and to respond to the surfaces we touch. So there's something that's a little bit more give and take, a bit of yielding, a bit of receiving from the spaces that we're in touch with. And I imagine that happens a bit with our eyes on a soft wall, that there's something that's a bit give and take. There's a bit of movement between us and the surface that we're meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
It's always the thing, isn't it? People say natural buildings feel better. And I'm always sort of trying to uncover what
is that?
Yeah. People often say about this building and perhaps other natural buildings that feel like it's been here forever. Even after it was just built, someone walked around and said, "Oh, it's got that feel of like it's from the 14th century or something." And that's only, I think, because it's natural materials. And, it's like fire that's been with us for so long, and that's why everyone is touched and moved by fire. Sitting around a campfire, blacksmithing, whatever it is. But no, also natural materials are part of us as society, as the history of the last 10,000 years at least, not before that as well.
And nature's moved in, like there's bats already in the roof. It's like the building's been received by the woodland as well.
Kind of given the thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that softness of surface, though, I think you're right on that. You can get something generally flat, but then it's not. You walk along it, you pad along it softly. Your body has to move and go with the flow. It's that going with the flow for me, that movement of materials and how they stretch then into their environment and the people that use them. So if it doesn't touch you in the soul, it's I won't name any big building companies, but they build houses that are square, flat, featureless, soulless places that do not feed the soul, in my opinion. And they offer a place to stay warm and dry, but in order to, I can sit here and look at the walls, watch the shadows, and it's like a television in itself, the movement of life that comes through the windows, the sun, the darkness of a black cloud passing over. It offers this texture that is received inside from outside. It's a connection.
I think it's human energy as well, the amount of human energy that goes into this kind of building. We can look around and remember. Can you remember when this person were here? And can you remember what that was like, how long they stayed for, the conversations that we had? There is so much human energy, so many hours of human energy in this house. And I think we receive that as when we're being in a space. Like going into a cathedral and just feeling the ancient, the amount of voices, prayer, energy that's held in the space. I'm not comparing this to a cathedral, but in terms of the human energy that's put in here, there's been a lot of hours.
Yeah. And how did you get lots of people to come and help? Did you run it as workshops? Was it friends, family?
Because we were part of WOOF scheme, we had some WOOF help.
Yeah, and we had a couple of...
But we had Ross.
Kieran.
Andy.
Paid them a little bit of money, some pocket money, and they stayed and lived here.
A couple of years?
Yeah. Andy stayed here a couple of years. Ross stayed here a year and a half. They were young fellas that really wanted to come and build and be part of a project like this. So, their energy just rolled the whole thing, kept it moving, and then, they had friends. And sometimes when we initially laid the earth floor before the well erupted up from the floor, we had 20 people laying the earth floor, and it took a day. Poof, it was down. Amazing effort. And, same with the straw bale, the plastering. How many tons of earth have gone into this building? I do not know, but it is, 100, at least 100 tons of earth plaster and lime plaster. And that's a lot of mixing and a lot of people. And you'd have days when there were 10 people, days when there were 2 people, days where there were 30 people that would be outside mixing in here. All of the various jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's been you through the whole thing with various people coming to help. Kieran helped putting some drawings together at the beginning because he was training to be an architect.
Mm-hmm.
Many different people.
Yeah.
Too many to name.
Yeah, it was going to be done in a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
That kept everyone going for a while. And then they ceased to believe me. And I ceased to believe myself. But, it was no formal way. It was really, people would come and they'd either stay for a day or they'd stay for 6 months or 2 years, as we said. So.
And because we can offer people somewhere to live as well, somewhere basic to live.
Being fed from the garden.
Yeah.
You cooked a lot of bread and cake in those days.
Essential.
Yeah.
And so how long did it take?
Before we moved in, it was a couple of years, but we just moved into one place and then kept working.
Yeah.
Because we had moved out and stayed in the village for a year.
Right.
Because we were all sharing the first house. There were 8 of us in a 2-bedroom, 1-kitchen house. We were living and working together. And sometimes that was a little testing. So we moved out.
I was ill.
Oh, you were ill.
I got ME, and so we got a place in the village where we just went for weekends. We just needed some respite from living all 8 of us in one small house. Poor children.
Enough. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, a year, 2 years, we were in and living in it and still working. I took 2 years out from the business, really. I earned enough money to pay my wages, such that they were at the time. I think we were
£25 a week.
I think we might have gone up to £50 a week by then. But,
The big money.
Yeah, absolutely. So I earned enough money to do that, but everything else was this. It was full time, and yeah, pretty full on, but lovely, beautiful. It was what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. So there was no problem getting up in the morning.
Having those Andy, Kieran and Ross here, it was really gorgeous.
Yeah, having a crew that were all into it, and we'd get through the jobs, and see it going up and seeing it evolve, and it felt like it was, because you have to build it from the floor up. We had a big sheet over the top of it that also took, so it grew under, and the sheet would go up, and it was like a mushroom coming up from the ground. You do one level and then start the next. But even the sheet was working itself. It would rain, and puddles would go on the sheet, and you'd have to wake up 2 o'clock in the middle of the night and push a stick, and all the it's just all of that. We talked earlier about waking up at 3 o'clock and sorting out problems in head. It wasn't just the daytime building; it was the working out of problems in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
you know it.
I know it so well. And you just be sort of talking to someone, you look in their eye, and suddenly you'll go like, and that joins into that in that way, and I've solved the problem. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I was focusing on that conversation, really.
All-consuming, doesn't it?
Yeah, very much so. And did the people that helped and stayed for a long time, did they carry on building?
The architect is still an architect. The other lad, he's more into gardening and looking after plants and trees now. But I mean, he builds lots of nice steps in the gardens with his woodworking and stuff like that. It's definitely taken some of the skills. Yeah. But no, the architect is. He got his first job because of this place.
Right.
So he showed the plans that he'd drawn for this to the company that he wanted to work with, because they had a big green building aspect to their business. So on the back of what he'd done here, he got his first job, and has moved forward from this. So it was definitely helpful for him. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And we don't see Auntie so much anymore.
No, No, he's always been a bit of a dark horse anyway, hasn't he? His own... Well, he likes hanging out with monks, doesn't he? And being very
He's
quiet.
a Buddhist,
Right. Okay.
so he's quite involved with the Buddhist movement.
Monastery out in
Mm.
Northumberland.
Hmm.
But sometimes it's not about, is it? It's not
Yeah.
about whether you're going to be a builder. That's it, isn't it? It's like it just feeds you in a way that you need at the time.
And being in a particular stage of life, that learning stage, that kind of, having what is out there, absorbing what is out there, what are the possibilities, being in community.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
often enough.
When I ran Hartwin, so we'd take 10 people and build a house with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I got people to sort of select, in the application process, we'd have 100 people apply. And I got people to say what their reason for applying was. And it was, I want to be a natural builder. I'm sort of taking a break from my career. And one was just, I want a life experience. And I picked a certain amount of people from each group.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that was really important to bring
Yeah.
those people together for that community experience. I think people were perhaps afraid to tick the I want a life experience box, because I wondered if people imagine that to be a sort of negative from my perspective.
It's
Yes.
not worthy enough.
Yeah, like I only want to train natural builders, but no, I really wanted.
Mhm.
I think there's so much value in the people that came who were in that sort of category. I think they had a lovely time. They've gone about and done whatever they've done afterwards,
And they've talked about this wonderful natural building technique to so many other people that would not be in contact with that knowledge otherwise, which is really important for society in this problem of concrete being used for everything.
And I think actually it takes more courage to step out of your usual life for an original life experience that will inform the rest of your life, but not necessarily be, it's not necessarily you're on a linear route.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned you had an earth floor.
Yeah.
Tell me first of all about living with the earth floor before pre-flood.
Yeah. Well, the earth floor, beautiful, undulating, gorgeousness.
Mm-hmm.
Felt connected to the earth, despite damp courses and things.
That was the reason that we wanted to do it, that we wanted to stay very connected. We didn't want there to be a gap between us and the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So it was lovely, it was beautiful. Would love to have one still, but...
Held the heat really well, so we'd wake up in the morning, because it had underfloor heating, we'd wake up in the morning with the house being really warm.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't to be, because when we dug the hole for the house in the bankside, we were just digging one last hole in order to put this rainwater collection system. And the digger was digging a hole. We hired a little mini digger, amazing guy called Keith, who was just a force of nature himself in his own way. So he dug this hole, and all of a sudden we'd been hitting grey clay layer, which is what's over the top of our aquifer here. But mostly it was fine. There was one place at the back where it folded a little, and the grey clay layer came up, and we needed to stop digging at that point, because that's the cap of the aquifer. It's quite thick. It's like 2 foot thick. But unfortunately, where the hole we were digging was, it was quite thin clay layer there, and it folded and came right up in the landscape there, just a little anomaly. So the digger went through it, and all of a sudden there was this geyser of water. This is before we even started building, like a good 2 or 3 foot, as the pressure in the aquifer was released. And then we stood there lamely trying to pat down with our feet some clay back in this seeping landscape feature. Was the aquifer just draining? I mean, it drains all over the land. There's wet patches all over, but we just created one above the building site. So we could no longer build the house until we capped that. So we had to case on a well with concrete rings, and that was another job entirely. Built a crane to lift them in and that kind of stuff. It was great engineering thing, and also it gave the site here a water.
How lucky! What a
It was
dream
lucky, yeah.
to find an aquifer
That
and to
was.
find that we have our own water on site. We no longer had to carry 25-litre containers in from people's taps.
There was also definitely a bit of head scratching and swearing
Yeah.
that went on initially, because we couldn't start. So we made the well. We thought we'd capped it quite well. We have generally, but we installed the earth floor, and the well was taking its own course in other places. We'd caissoned it, we'd sealed it off with some special clay bentonite, but there were other roots being found as well, so it erupted inside. So we had to dig the clay floor up and sort out the last of the issues that were caused at that time. So that was definitely a low point in the entire thing.
We'll be back after a quick break.
If you're looking for all things BMX racing, you found the right podcast. Here at Lane 8 BMX Podcast, I'll speak to the local racer, the national racer, and even the Olympic level racers. I'm talking kids to the weekend warriors and much more. So get comfortable, turn up the volume, and remember to snap on green.
But
For me.
it was interesting. I thought about the floor, living with it. There was, and I'm wondering about the underfloor heating, because we had a gorgeous ambient temperature, but we couldn't quite get the room warm enough in the evening. So it was, the ambient temperature was...
It was probably a bit thick in
It was a bit
retrospect.
thick.
So
Was there insulation underneath?
Yeah, Hasselblad, yeah.
Don't
But
know
it
what
was,
that is.
it's that kind of,
Expanded glass.
yeah.
Oh,
It
yeah,
comes
okay.
in nuggets and
Yes,
you lay it
it
down
sort of
underneath.
looks like coal.
Yeah, a bit, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, or like the stuff inside an aero bar. Those little bubbly bits. So I didn't know anything about air floors apart from, reading a bit. This was like 14, 15 years ago. So it's the same with straw bale, a lot of sand in the clay mixes then. I hear that there's less sand being put into earth mixes these days, but that's the stuff that was written in books back then. So, and lime on the inside. Don't really need to have the lime on the inside, but that's what I took from those few books that I'd read. So it's the same with the floor. It was an experiment, which we probably could have lived with because it was beautiful and gorgeous. It was probably a bit thick, and then there was a water issue from the aquifer that hadn't quite been dealt with properly. So,
And you didn't feel like you wanted to put it back in?
no, because it was a lot of work.
Mm.
And we had lots of oak left over from what we talked about earlier, from all the oak trees that we'd had for the first house. So it just seemed, I knew floating floors, and we put that in sheep's wool insulation, all that kind of stuff. So,
And we were worried that we might have that problem again, I think.
Mm-hmm. I suppose it's a...
Because we are on a spring.
Mhm.
We built a house on top of a spring.
Yeah,
Mm.
fair enough. I can very much understand your your reasoning.
yeah, it's quite a big kick in the teeth to have to dig up your floor.
Having to undo
Yeah.
something how long it took is such a devastating thing.
Yeah, so that was definitely the big thing about this whole house build. The thing I'd do differently about it
Right.
would be definitely have sorted that well out, and have sorted out the damp coursing
Mhm.
underneath the back, and rerouted lots more French drains, and But as we were talking about earlier, mistakes, great teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't the end of the world. It was just a step backwards. So.
And then, so you mentioned that you knew how to do this from books, the whole house building, the floor.
Yeah.
How prepared do you think that made you?
I'd been building quite a few things previously. We
Right, okay.
mucked about with earth bag structures. I built straw bale roundhouses with reciprocal roofs for a Buddhist place. I'd been building lots of little buildings, and then we built the building over there with the timber frame. That was 2 or 3 years of pretty serious. Taught myself how to slate and plumb and do electrics and straw bale and plaster. None of it, the best in the world, but it was a good learning ground. So this felt like, I've got enough skills in order to do it. But again, it was another learning curve in so many ways. It was different in so many ways, the loaded straw bale thing. But no, I truly believe that natural building offers you this amazing ability to build a house yourself with limited skills. These materials are in us. They've been with us for millennia, and they don't require any special skills other than a desire to build. Really, they offer you so much in the fact that they're natural, they're free often if you live in a woodland, or but also they're offering this knowledge that I think is embedded in us as a species. You look at a bit of wood and some sticks. A child can build a simple structure out of sticks and leaves. That's all it is really. It's playing with how to build. So, and they inform you as much as you inform it. I think. So there's a lot of that. But the books, and now we've got YouTube and people that actually know what they're doing, and you go on courses and things. I should have gone on some courses probably, but I didn't know of any. We didn't have internet here in the woods, did we? Until...
Did it even exist?
It probably existed, we just didn't know about it. So...
And there was a lot less people doing it then.
Yeah.
It just wasn't
mainstream. It wasn't out there, no.
Yeah, probably some pockets in Wales that were really sort of pushing it.
Yeah. But we didn't know about them.
Yeah.
Just like I didn't know there was a load of green woodworkers that met up in a field once a year until 7-8 years ago when 4G finally hit us. So yeah.
Is there a spot in the house that you really, that is your sort of favourite, a bit that you're drawn to?
Joe?
Well, because our bedroom's just been finished, I think our bedroom and our bed, because it's a reciprocal roof, and there's a big glass window, which, yes, when we were building it, I was against. Because I just wanted it to be done. So I just cover it up. Just put wood over it. It doesn't matter. Just get in. Let's just get in. But it's glass, and we can lie in bed and look at the stars, which is really beautiful. And we've only been in there since Christmas, so it's at the moment, lying in bed, looking at the sky, watching the clouds pass over, is my favourite place.
And the level of it as well means that we're up in the tops of the trees.
Yeah.
So we get to see the canopy of the trees and all of the life that's going on that. You can just lie in bed and look forwards and see that level of life. That is often, you spend most of your time looking at your feet, don't you?
Yeah.
But, being able to look up at that level is quite a treat as well. And waking up in the morning to that, and not just going to sleep with the moon and the stars above you, but waking up in the morning. Sometimes I've looked up and the buzzards that fly over this valley have been wheeling. They're just lofted from a tree nearby, and they're trying to get some height. It's just...
And hearing the rain
special.
again at night, going to sleep hearing the rain, because living in a yurt, that was one of for me the best things, is hearing the rain. And Straw Bale House, it felt really strange at first, because it feels we're so insulated, but it means we can't hear what's happening in the woods, the weather.
Miss out on the owls.
Yeah. Yes, but up there, it feels like we're back into contact.
Yeah. I felt the exact same thing. Lived on a boat, and then lived in a caravan while I was building my house, and then suddenly I was in this really well sealed, insulated
Yeah.
space. It's very quiet, isn't it? I feel disconnected. But I've got a skylight above my bed as well, and I really love that. Like that sort of thing when you turn off the light and the moonlight's so bright coming through, and you're like, oh, didn't really make any difference.
Yeah.
Gets you kind of into that rhythm, I guess, or it keeps you in the rhythm. Yeah.
That nature connection.
So easy to lose.
Yeah, I'd say that's my favourite space as well. Just, it feels calm up there. You know, the rest of the house has got the detritus of life, your bags that you've put down, the mugs you haven't picked up, or, you know. And although it's lovely space, it's the bedroom feels clear, uncluttered, and up in space. So.
Yeah. So that's the second story. I get confused, but third story. Yeah.
Ground first, second, depending
yes,
on
okay.
how you do it, isn't it?
Yeah. In America, they do 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
That makes more sense to me.
It confuses everyone when they
Yeah.
go to the other country, though. I don't know of really any 3-story load-bearing straw bale.
No.
In fact, when I was in my sort of training years, I remember them, Barbara Jones saying, like, it's definitely possible, but no one's done it yet.
Yeah. We thought we had to, really.
Yeah.
Churlish.
You thought we had.
You just wanted a roof and
I just
finished
wanted
house.
somewhere we were trying to live.
I thought we had to. Not that we had to. I thought I'd like to, just to see what the technology was capable of doing.
Yeah.
So it's definitely stretched it, I think, to its limits.
You wouldn't be tempted to put another floor on.
No, yeah, it's straws and camels' backs comes to mind. You know, every layer of earth or every new floor, the whole place is, you know, not dangerously, but it's just compressed that little bit. And it doesn't take much of a compression. You know, it could just be like 1/4 of an inch, but then the plaster downstairs has taken that weight, so there'll be another little crack. Or just over there's the oak beam that sits on a little shelf. I've replastered that bit 4 times now. It's just, yeah. So this should be it. It's fine, you know.
Settled in.
It's a very clever system, you know. The straw bales technically can take the weight itself, but then when you put the walls on the outside, the 2 layers of plaster, you've got a stress-skinned panel, which is used in lots of conventional building. You know, so it's actually the plaster that's taking the weight after a while. And, you know, plaster in some places is 2-3 inches thick on either side, just because of the straw bales being quite so wibbly after the rats had go. So yeah, it's a great building technique. It's one problem, I think, is that you have to put the roof on last, which is quite problematic if you haven't got lots of scaffolding and stuff like that. So
yes,
it's tricky that way.
Definitely been a push sort of more recently in the straw bale building to how to develop techniques for building a roof first and then dropping it. Be difficult at this height. But yeah, certainly sort of single-story buildings, people are building it first and then dropping it or lowering it onto the bales.
Yeah, that's the latest Barbara Jones book. Touches on those structures, doesn't it, really? Yeah, right.
It's a fascinating process, sort of knocking out wedges so that the roof slowly compresses down.
Right.
And everyone sort of, surely it's going to fall over. And it just sits quite nicely.
Yeah, so it's still moving on now as more and more gets built. You learn from your mistakes again, isn't it?
Yes, yeah. Find efficiencies and benefits of doing other things.
Yeah.
I think we imagined that if we had enough people to take it up quickly, that it would be okay, that we'd get the straw bales all in, because we do the without doing the top tower. But actually, nothing happens as quick as we'd like it to, does it?
No. Estimating how long something you've never done before. Estimating how long something you have done before is tricky enough, isn't it?
Yeah. definitely.
Let alone when you chuck loads of unknowns at something. Yeah, just mixing plaster, electrics. Goodness me, there's a lot going on in a house. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And each thing takes a long time. So yeah, it's lovely to be in that bedroom. It feels, although the house isn't complete, it feels like a completion of sorts. Yeah.
But the only thing really to still complete it is the greenhouse on the front.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, interesting. So a wrap around sort of south side.
So that big timber frame just there in front of the kitchen.
Because if the Weetabix, it's the sort of, this is the round bit, and then it's the other bit to make the Weetabix shape.
Yeah, it's had a bit cut out of the front edge of the Weetabix on the kitchen side.
I love that you call it a Weetabix.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah.
On the plans, it really
it's a great descriptor.
It's the shape, yeah.
And so it'll be a 2-storey greenhouse, and then the kids have got a balcony up there as well that they've at the top of it.
They've got a little door in the outside of their bedroom so that they can meet on this balcony.
Yeah.
So that's a mezzanine in the greenhouse. And yeah, the greenhouse will be, a buffer.
And it'll take a tree.
It'll have a lemon in it or a fig or
Still trying to
some
decide
grapes.
which tree.
All of them, yes. Olive tree and it's just that was part of the original visions. And a little space to grow
and that'll extend round to the porch, because the porch is, so you arrive into the house through our shed, which isn't the most attractive, welcoming. So yeah, it's that and finishing the sort of wall around there.
It's the last big
it's
push,
more
isn't it?
exterior stuff. Yeah. Oh, the bathroom.
Yeah. I mean, each area.
Forgot about
the bathroom first, obviously. But each area has been, okay, this is a building in itself. That's just because there's this huge curtain around the back. Part of it makes what we use as a bike shed. Part of it makes as we move around the back of the building on the north side, part of it means it's a pantry. That's that door there behind us. And then part of it we couldn't use because the aquifer folded there. And then we're back into what is our main entrance, the porch, which then joins onto the greenhouse. So there's this huge curtain, which looked quite easy on the plans. But actually, each one of those sections is a small building in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. Optimism is a wonderful thing. And you've got to start building with optimism, haven't you?
You wouldn't start if you didn't have it.
No.
And I think as a builder, that's probably your greatest gift, is this blind optimism. You're going to create this thing, and the joy of creating it is wonderful, but it's always a lot harder than I ever imagined it to be.
Mm-hmm.
But that's part of its beauty as well. No adventure without adversity, is there? I feel.
All right. Thank you, Joe and Matt. So great to hear about your house while sat in it. Such a beautiful space. Really enjoyed my time in the Weetabix, and just really, really enjoyed getting to hang out with Joe and Matt. I get to see them at green woodworking events, but yeah, to really get to know them and ask all the questions I wanted to ask was a really brilliant thing for me personally. And so I hope you all enjoyed it at home. There is links in the show notes, minimal links this week, really, just Joe and Matt and Abundant Earth. And I'll put a link also to the book, the Barbara Jones Straw Bale book, and also there's timber frame book that Matt used for timber framing the building. I had a flick through it just after we finished recording, and it's full of all details and joints, and is really better than any timber framing book I've ever seen. So I'm going to get myself a copy of that. Maybe you want to too. If this was your first episode, then do subscribe. Go back and check out all of the other episodes. There is a whole lot of interesting straw type stuff maybe you can check out the episode with Phil Christopher. He was talking about all things straw bale, particularly the project they did up in Hastings Visitor Centre. Quick reminder to share this episode if you can. Really appreciated. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, then if you get just 2 minutes just to write a quick review, give it a 5-star rating, that really does help more people to find this podcast, and also makes me really smug. Patreon, if you want to support this podcast financially, you can support it by sharing, but financially, then do head to patreon.com/building sustainability. You get about 10 hours of bonus content on there from various guests from the first 100 episodes, and you get a little bit of waffle from me. You get to see around my house, things like that. I think that's everything. Thank you very much for listening. I hope you're really, really well. And I look forward to coming back with some more chats with nice people very, very soon. All right. Catch you later.